Hey viewers, this is Shvit Godrigo, and this is my review of Forza Horizon 4. Forza Horizon is a series of open-world racing games, and Horizon 4 takes place in northern England and Scotland. So what I'm going to be doing in this review is first giving you an overview of the game, showing you the features and the gameplay, and then I'm going to give you my closing thoughts on why I think Forza Horizon 4 is one of the must-own racing games of the year. Let's start with one of my most favorite things about this game. The mind-boggling selection of cars. It has over 550 different cars. It's got SUVs, classic supercars, dune buggies. This thing from Halo, supercars you probably never even heard of. Classic cars, super sedans, sports coupes, legendary rally cars, whatever this thing is. Bentleys, BMWs, Mercedes, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Bugatti. It's even got a bunch of manufacturers that I had never even heard of before. It's got American muscle, classic muscle. It's got Japanese tuner cars. There are Jeeps. I mean, it's safe to say that this game has something for everyone. Now, the game originally didn't come with Mitsubishi cars or Toyota cars, but the developers have now added in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo and the Eclipse and the GTO, and a lot of people were wanting these, me included, so we're glad to have them now. There's still no Toyota or Lexus, but there's a chance that if they can get the licensing, they might release Toyota and Lexus later on down the line. So now I'm going to go into customizing, tuning, and painting the cars. The level of car customization in this game is just amazing. If you want, you can take a classic 60s Mustang and put a big V12 engine in it. You can put twin turbos in it or a supercharger. You can give it an all-wheel drive drivetrain. You can put aerodynamic bits on it. You can change up the hood and give it a cooler looking and lighter weight one. Practically everything on the car can be customized. I mean, the tires and rims, there are different tire compounds for different conditions and purposes. Different size tires, different types of rims. They all look different and have different weights. The size of the wheels can be customized. The track width can be customized. The drivetrain components can all be swapped out, and that's really cool because they change how the car feels. I mean, putting in a lighter driveline gives you better throttle response. Putting in a better differential and tuning it improves your ability to enter and exit corners when you're at speed. Putting a better transmission in the car makes your shifts much faster and smoother, and oftentimes gives you more gears as well. The clutch doesn't really change too much as far as I've noticed, but it's cool that you can improve it too. You can change handling components, improve the brakes, give it different springs and dampers suited for different things like rally or drifting. You can improve the anti-roll bars. You can put a roll cage in there if you want and make the chassis more stiff. You can improve weight reduction and make the car much lighter. And you can improve practically every part of the engine, and I love this because these upgrades actually change how the car feels and drives. Upgrading the exhaust makes the car sound different, oftentimes sounds much better. Upgrading the camshafts extends your red line, as you can see on the chart. Giving it a lighter weight flywheel gives you way better throttle response and lets you rev much faster through the power band. So let's take a look at the tuning as well. Now, this can be pretty overwhelming, especially for a new player. I mean, most people when they play racing games probably aren't thinking about changing the ratio of every single gear or completely customizing the alignment and every little thing. But even though it can be difficult at first, it gives you so much potential for changing up a car and fine-tuning the handling just to your preferences. I mean, you can make the car fit you like a glove. It'll fit your driving style and the kinds of events you want to do. You can make a car a drift car or a rally car or a cross-country car. I mean, it is a lot to take in at first, but it's just an amazing feature because it brings out your imagination and gives you the capability of doing anything you want with a car. While the car upgrading and tuning lets you make the car your canvas mechanically, The design feature lets you make the car your canvas artistically. If you go to paint body, you can choose from a series of manufacturer colors, or you can choose from this palette of colors and even create your own custom color by messing with the hue, the saturation, and the brightness. This is great because you can get exactly that shade or tone that you're looking for. On top of that, the game has these special paints like semi-gloss, matte, metal flake, two-tone polish, Prismacolor, carbon fiber, concept camo, desert camo. Now, you can paint the hood a different color, the mirrors different colors, the wing, and the wheels. And the cool thing about the wheels is that you can paint different parts of the wheel. On top of all that, you can tint the windows any color you'd like. If you want, you can even give your car a pink tint, or a purple, or red. Most people just go for black or gray, but it gives you the freedom to choose. In addition to being able to paint the car, you can apply vinyls. And this is how I made this simple little design for my BMW M3. You just go to the vinyl creator, apply a shape, and you get to pick from this huge variety of vinyls, and you can change their shape, change their color, and essentially make whatever you want. And this is really great for creative people, and a lot of people have just made absolutely incredible designs for the cars in this game. Before I show you the different event types in Forza Horizon 4, I wanted to briefly show you what Car Mastery is all about. Now, in previous Forza Horizon games, Car Mastery was just player mastery, basically. It affected all your cars and you only had one tree. But Forza Horizon 4 has a different Car Mastery tree for every single car. As you can see, some of these bricks at the top are grayed out. That's because this is an epic rarity car. In order to have the full mastery tree available, you need to be driving a legendary or Forza edition car. So that is the only relevance of car rarity as far as I know in the game. What these do is essentially they give you passive bonuses. This one gives you more event finish influence. Influence is how you level up in the game. Leveling up gets you different rewards. This one gives you more influence from road races specifically, and a lot of these are just helping you get even more skill points. This one lets you get wheel spins. Wheel spins are basically a chance to win a free prize. There are different ways to get these, mostly through leveling up or winning certain events, and it spins this wheel and you have a chance of winning money or a rare car or a common car or just some stupid clothing item. Now let's move on to the events. As you can see, there is a whole lot to do in Forza Horizon 4. The first event type that you're introduced to is called a showcase event. And showcase events are these unique, unconventional races where you're basically competing against anything other than a car. The first one has you racing a bunch of guys on dirt bikes through a forest, and then they have you race against a train and a hovercraft. Later on, you race against a bunch of vehicles from the game Halo, and even race against a jet plane. Now, in addition to that, you have your traditional race types like a road sprint race, which is just your simple point A to point B race that takes place on a paved asphalt road. You have cross-country races, which don't really follow a set road. They kind of go all over the place, and they go over all types of terrain like dirt, forest, sand, river, ice. They're pretty fun, and they are a place where trucks and SUVs can really dominate. Now, there are trail races. Now, trail races are like a rally or a rallycross, but with only one stage. They mostly take place on dirt roads and go from point A to point B. And each one of these race types has a corresponding circuit race type. Like the trail races have Scramble, which is a dirt circuit with multiple laps. There are road circuit races with multiple laps, and then cross-country circuits. In addition to those race types, you have street races. Now, street races can't be customized. You can't make your own version of them. They just have their own weather settings, and they always take place at night. But they're pretty fun. They're very challenging, and essentially, they give you a sense of doing some kind of underground street race. In addition to those, there are these little things all over the map, like speed traps, speed zones. Speed zones are these zones as noted by the little white rectangles and white outline on the road. where you're trying to see how high of an average speed you can get as you pass through the zone. Speed traps are very simple. They try to see how high of a speed you can get as you pass the speed camera. Danger signs are cool. They're basically these ramps that are set up at the edges of cliffs and basically high altitude areas. You try to see how much air you can get as you take the jump. Drift zones are these zones designated just for drifting. They usually have some windy turns and curves, and you're trying to see how many drift points you can get. Now let's talk about the story events. The first story event that you get to do is called the Stunt Driver, and this one's pretty fun. You're basically doing different stunts and movie shoots using some really rare or really expensive cars. I like this one. There's British Racing Green, which shows you a bit of British automotive history. There are classic Aston Martins and stuff like that. That one's fun. There is Drift Club, which is all about drifting. And this one's pretty tough, especially if you're not really good at drifting. They give you a tuned up drift car and a goal like at 150,000 drift points while reaching the destination in a set period of time. And yeah, it's pretty tough, but it's pretty fun if you like drifting. I should talk about businesses. Now, the business that originally came with the game is called World's Fastest Rentals. This essentially has you doing different goals and objectives in these rental supercars like Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Koenigsegg's, Zenvos, Zondas, and the further you progress in it, the more of a daily payment you get per day. The daily payment is pretty insignificant, but it's a cool concept. And just the other day, the developers added the Aisha's Taxis business, which is like a high-speed taxi drop-off, and I'll make a video about this business later on. I should talk about barn finds too. Now, if you haven't played Forza Horizon before, barn finds are these big purple zones where you just drive around and look for a barn that contains a neglected classic car. It might be an American classic, or a European classic, or a Japanese classic. And if you find it, it automatically gets refurbished and you get to do whatever you want with it. But Forza Horizon 4 now has seasonal barn finds. These are season-specific barn finds that you can only find in that season. And I should close with a quick note about houses. Forza Horizon 4 has houses. Now, what these are basically your home away from home. You no longer have to go all the way to the festival site to do anything like customizing your car or buying a new car. Once you have a house, this one is given to you for free. You can just go there to customize your car, add things to it, or buy one. And the cool thing is that each house has a specific perk. The first one that you get for free gives you drone mode. And drone mode lets you explore the map using a drone. Before I move on though, I wanted to make one last note of the seasonal events. Now, for example, this here is a seasonal drag race. This is a seasonal trail race. And up here, there's a seasonal championship, the white ones. They usually come in sets of 3. I already did the first one, and if you beat the requirements, such as beating expert or unbeatable AI with an 800 level car, you'll win a rare prize like a very unique car, or rare clothing, or even just a bunch of money or wheel spins. Now let's take a first-hand look at the seasons. I thought it'd be cool to show you springtime in Forza Horizon 4 by just taking a nice drive through the country. As you can see, it gets a bit rainy in spring, but it's very gorgeous because everything is just so green. The trees are full of blossoms, the bushes are full of flowers, you've got all kinds of different plants and foliage growing, and the wheat fields are ready for harvest. You get this nice sense of driving through the northern English countryside in the middle of springtime. One of my favorite things to do in this game is to spend 30 to 45 minutes carefully tuning a car, and then just winding the motor out on some nice country roads. And that's something I think you just can't really get bored of in this game, or at least I can, because as the seasons change, the appearance of the world changes, and the dynamics of driving change. the world feels different as you drive through it, depending on what season it is and what the weather's like. And as a result, the game has a lot of replay value, and it's just fun to free roam. In this case, I've got the Mazda RX-7 with a 700 horsepower, 2-liter, 4-rotor rotary engine, all-wheel drive drivetrain, and the suspension's tuned up pretty well, gearing's dialed in just right. And let me tell you, it is really fun to drive this thing around in the country. Here I am doing a expert level cross-country race in my Toyota Hilux, and as you can tell by all the snow, the season's currently set to winter, and I think winter looks awesome in Forza Horizon 4. There's snow all over the place, snow all over the trees, patches of ice everywhere, and barely anything growing. I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect from a northern English winter, and it really feels like a northern English winter because you have to be very careful when you're driving with your steering inputs and especially with your braking. I mean, if you brake just a little bit too hard or steer a bit too hard, it's so much easier to totally lose traction and even flip your car over as opposed to when you're driving in summer or spring or even fall. Now, on the other hand, that's something I really love about winter in Forza Horizon 4 because it makes races feel that much more rewarding when you win, when you perform well. It's a lot more challenging, but you really feel a sense of mastery over your car when you can successfully control it over the snow and the ice, particularly in cross-country races because you don't get to drive over clear paved roads. You have to drive over thick snow. You have to drive over ice patches. Oh my god, I almost hit a sheep. Anyway, yeah, you just feel this like great sense of accomplishment when you can get in first place in a winter race because it shows that you've learned something about controlling your car, and that's all thanks to the new season change mechanic. So here's some footage of me doing an expert level dirt race, which is basically like a rallycross with only one stage in the legendary Group B rally car, the Ford RS200. The season is set to autumn, which explains why the weather is pretty clear and the temperature is relatively mild. In autumn, it doesn't get hot, it doesn't get too cold, there's not as much rain as spring, so as a result, I think it's the most balanced season in the game. I mean, road conditions are very predictable, and this makes it pretty easy for racing. You will get a little bit more grip in summer because the heat makes your tires stickier, but I think autumn is pretty pleasant for newer players, and it's very pleasant for any player because of just how beautiful it is. I mean, the whole time I'm doing races in autumn, I just can't stop looking around. I can't stop taking in this wonderful medley of color. The reds, the yellows, the light greens, the orange, and it's just really cool how all the trees are in different stages of changing color. I think the developers really wanted to capture what it would be like to drive around and race in autumn. You'll have predictable road conditions, smooth, pleasant driving, but just lovely, gorgeous nature all around you, all these different colors. And so, oh man, we got pretty close. I'm still in first. It lacks the challenge of winter, but it is just possibly the most beautiful season in the game, at least in my opinion. Finally, I present summer season. I am doing a sprint race, which is a simple point A to point B race in the Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG S. Now, as you can expect from summer, road conditions are perfect. There's no snow, there's no rain, it's dry, and the temperature is hot. Now, as a result of all this, I think summer is by far the easiest season for racing, especially road racing. in addition to the roads just being very dry and clear, you have the advantage of heat. Now, why is that such an advantage? Because more heat means the rubber compound in the tires heats up and allows the tire to conform better to the road. Now, this is a huge asset when you're racing, especially for a big, heavy car like the Mercedes C63 AMG. I mean, even with weight reduction and suspension tuning, this thing is heavy, and it'll understeer if you don't take care of the grip and the handling. Even with all this tuning, I have to be pretty careful in the corners. But because of that heat that makes the tires even stickier, I can actually brake a lot later and be a lot more daring when I'm entering and exiting corners, as opposed to if it were spring or winter or even autumn. Summer gives you so much more leeway because of just how dry and clear it is, and because of how much stickier your tires get as a result of the heat. So it is a very fun season for racing. So before I wrap up the video and give you my overall thoughts on the game, I wanted to show you what the online play is like. Now, the main online play in the game is called Quick Play Adventure. You can jump into this at any time and pick one of the categories. Free-for-all racing is free-for-all. Everyone is on their own trying to get the highest score in a race. But the team ones are interesting because you're put on a red team or a blue team, and the teams are competing to see who can get more points in the race. And the points are doled out based on how many cars the players on that team have behind them. So let's say you're in 5th place on the blue team and there are 4 cars on the red team behind you. You'll get 400 points. And so the more points your team has cumulatively with all the racers on your team put together, the more likelihood you have of winning the race. The other main type of PvP in the game is doing co-op, PvP, and rivals races. Now, co-op races are you racing with other players against the AI. PvP races are just you racing against other players. And rivals races have you doing that race on your own against AI, but trying to set a time that'll beat another human player's time. You're not actually racing players, but you're racing to see if you can beat the race faster than they can. Speaking of rivals, I'd like to show you the other main form of PvP in this game, which is called Rivals Mode. Now, just like the Rivals option for races, Rivals has you racing either solo or against AI to see if you can set a better time than the next player. So Showcase Rivals has you doing showcase events and seeing if you can set a faster time than the next person. This one is 10 minutes and 27 seconds, which is probably not going to be hard to beat at all. Race Discipline Rivals lets you choose any type of race and compete against AI to see if you can finish faster than other players. And then Monthly Rivals, I really like this. It's really cool. Every month there are 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 different races, and they give you the time of players there, and you should do the race on your own to see if you can beat their time. And then once you beat their time, it'll give you another person's time who's ahead of you, and this continues until you get to the very top. So I like Rivals Mode because it gives you a chance to basically do PvP at your own pace, on your own time, and really test yourself against other people. So now I'm going to give you my closing thoughts on Forza Horizon 4, while also giving you a look at a springtime street race in my BMW E60 M5. So I'm going to break this down into the good, the bad, and the ugly, starting with the good. This game lives in a world of its own. There just aren't really other racing games out there that give you an amazing arsenal of cars, and great tools for tuning and designing them, and a huge sprawling world where you get to do whatever you want with those cars. There are lots of cool games where you can race around tracks, do rallycross, but Horizon's open world gives you so much more freedom than those games. You're not limited to a selection of tracks or whatever. You get to do whatever you want. You want to roll around the city and take pictures of your car? You can. You want to drift all day long? Sure, go for it. You want to create custom race events and have people vote on whether they're good or not? You can. And the game rewards you for doing these things. In addendum to that, The astounding selection of cars in the game means that there is literally something for everybody. Whether you want to do cross-country in a huge pickup truck, or you want to roll around town in a Bentley, or tune up some cool Japanese tuner car, or do rallycross, you can do it all. And I think this is amazing because if you're into cars, no matter what type of car you like, this game has it, and you get to toy around with it, customize it, and do whatever you feel like doing with it. Let's get into the bad. What's bad is all-wheel drive. Now, don't get me wrong, all-wheel drive is incredible in this game, but that's the problem. You have no reason to choose rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive as you get into the higher echelons of racing in the game. All-wheel drive just gives you such good traction that you're basically at a disadvantage if you pick a different drivetrain platform. So this hurts the game by limiting customization and presenting an inherent balance problem. Let's get into the ugly. What's ugly is online racing. Now, as you may have seen in my earlier clip, there's a lot of bumping into people and ramming and lagging, and it can get pretty dumb. I think they're okay, but I generally avoid the online racing. But regardless of that, I think Forza Horizon 4 is an amazing game and totally worth the money if you can afford it. So if you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be making a lot more videos about this game and others. Thanks for watching.